This is the album cover for Only Built for Cuban Links by Raekwon. And this is the album cover for Liquid Swords by the GZA. These two albums are probably the two most highly rated solo albums by members of the Wu-Tang Clan. The two albums came out a few months apart, and almost 30 years later, they're still spoken of fondly by rap music fans. Liquid Swords in particular stands out to me for its consistency in beats, lyrics, pacing, themes, and all the songs sound like they're part of the same project, which is a quality that is sometimes taken for granted. But all of this shouldn't come as a surprise, because when people talk about the best lyricist in the Wu-Tang Clan, two names often pop up. That is Inspector Deck, whom I've talked about in a previous video, and the GZA. GZA is the oldest member of the Wu-Tang Clan and is often referred to as the spiritual head of the group. As a fan of the clan, I always gravitated to his verses on songs even before I knew who he was back when I was younger. As I was out taking my morning jog one day, I found myself continuously replaying Liquid Swords, and in particular the song Fourth Chamber, and the thought started to run through my head. Why do I gravitate towards this music so much? In this video, I'll share my opinion as to why GZA is so highly rated. At the time of releasing this video, this channel isn't making any money, and the videos do take a lot of time, so any support would be greatly appreciated. If you wish to do so, you can click the Ko-fi link in the description box below to send a tip. Please subscribe and share with a friend. Thank you for watching. At birth, in 1966 in New York, GZA was given the name Gary Grice. While he was still young and impressionable, Gary witnessed the birth of an exciting new street culture called hip-hop, which was taking shape in the Bronx. He took a liking to it, and at the age of 11, he introduced his cousin Robert Diggs to hip-hop by taking him to the block parties. Robert would later grow to become the RZA. GZA was also an avid reader and took interest in the spiritual aspects of life. This would lead him down the path of the 5% Nation, which he also introduced to Robert. This would play a crucial role in their music later in life. In brief, the 5% Nation is an Afro-American nationalist movement which was influenced by Islam and founded in 1964 in New York. This means that the movement was in full effect when Gary was a youngster, and he got to observe it as it was growing. The Nation believes that Black people are the original people on the planet and the founders of civilization.
And the original black man is God, the founder of all men upon the planet Earth. We the 5% here, we represent ourselves as God through our true knowledge as God.
It has various customs and teachings, such as the supreme mathematics, which is a system for understanding numbers.
Every number, every numeral got a meaning. The number is actually the thing that you talk about. You got one apple, the number is the apple, that's the number. The numeral is the symbol that represents that number. So we're dealing with numerals from 1 to 9. 1 to 9 completes the cipher, 0.
Numerology would later appear in Wu-Tang songs in the form of lyrics, song titles, visual imagery, and during interviews. I say this because having a minimal familiarity of these concepts helps when deciphering some of the references made in Wu music, which sometimes may sound convoluted.
We are people with culture. I'm gonna tell you that. We are people with knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture. We got the power to build over the planet Earth because we are the youth. We got the equality because we deal equal with our power.
Fast forward a bit, and Gary dropped out of high school in the 10th grade. He, his cousin Robert Diggs, and their cousin Russell Jones started to get deep into hip-hop, and they began working on raps together. As a side note, Russell Jones became Old Dirty Bastard. They formed a trio called Force of the Imperial Master, which later changed to All In Together Crew. At the same time, Gary and Robert were also working on solo tracks and actively trying to make a name for themselves in the music scene, so that they could secure a record deal. Gary adopted the name The Genius due to his high-level intellect. He worked as a bicycle messenger while simultaneously working on his music. His creative efforts proved fruitful when he received a record deal with Cold Chilling Records, under which he recorded and released his debut solo album titled Words from a Genius in 1991. The album didn't perform well, so he requested his release from the label. At around the same time, his cousin Robert, who was releasing music under the name c.r.e.a.m, got a deal with Tommy Boy Records, which released his track titled Ooh, I Love You Rakim. The single didn't do well, and Robert was subsequently released from his deal. Gary and Robert's experiences in the music industry prompted Rob to start recruiting MCs to form what would become the Wu-Tang Clan. The foundation of the group was Gary, Robert, and Russell, who already had a bond and had been a group earlier. They recruited 6 other MCs and formed the Wu-Tang Clan, which went to global stardom after the release of their 1993 album, Enter the Wu-Tang, The 36 Chambers. 2 years later, GZA dropped his solo album Liquid Swords, which solidified him as a top-tier lyricist in the game. The album went gold upon its initial release, and over the course of 20 years, it slowly continued to sell till it reached platinum status in 2015 for shipping 1 million copies. That is an incredible feat, which speaks to the album's staying power. Most music is hot for a minute and is forgotten within days, weeks, or months. A strong record can hold up for a few years, but classics can hold up for decades. And that is what Liquid Swords is, a certified hip-hop classic. GZA's Liquid Swords was monumental for his career and rap music as a whole. It created a fan base and generated discussion around it that is still ongoing today. Several factors made the album stand out, including its consistent themes, consistent production, top-notch lyricism, featured artists, skits, and its overall atmosphere. It's one of those rare albums where each individual element can stand on its own, but collectively, each element makes the whole cake better. It also stands as an extension of the Wu-Tang sound which began on 36 Chambers, which is something that many fans hold near and dear to their hearts. It features contributions from all the 9 original members and has some of RZA's best production in my opinion. The songs Fourth Chamber, Hell's Windstaff, and Cold World stand out for me on the production front. Lyrically, you could close your eyes, pick any song, and you can make an argument for it being the strongest because GZA's lyrics are just that damn good. In summary, the album covers 3 main areas. Firstly, the album talks about the art of MCing and how dope GZA and the Wu-Tang Clan are lyrically. This is the overarching theme of the project, which is covered in the skits as well as songs such as Liquid Swords, Duel of the Iron Mic, and Shadowboxing. Secondly, the album talks about the perils of growing up in poverty, drug dealing, and the street life. This is seen in songs such as Cold World, Gold, Hell's Windstaff, and Investigative Reports. Thirdly, the album talks about fighting the system, social and systematic oppression, and the perils of the music industry. This is explored in songs such as Labels, Fourth Chamber, and Gold. And it sort of makes sense that GZA covers this because he had experience being signed to a label prior. There are also songs such as I Got Your Back, B.I.B.L.E. by Killah Priest, and Swordsman, which cover other areas, but the 3 previously mentioned areas are the ones that dominate the project. Many of the songs contain lines and themes that overlap, which give the album cohesion and glue. At the end of it all, GZA and the Wu-Tang Clan are depicted as warriors who live in an unjust and cold world, and it's their duty to fight the system, escape from poverty via spitting rhymes or dealing drugs, and they must share their knowledge and wisdom to others and inspire other people to take control of their lives, despite the hard circumstances they may face. Their primary weapon of choice as they undergo this quest is their rhymes, which they write with ink, and hence those are referred to as liquid swords. In all of this, GZA does not shy away from the fact that despite trying to fight the system, he himself is a product of that very system. Therefore, he's part of the very problem that he's trying to alleviate, which creates a certain duality in the whole album, and that creates a very interesting dynamic. This is addressed primarily in the song Gold, where he discusses how his pursuit of gold status records in the music industry and money to escape his unfavorable situations can lead one to participating in uncouth acts such as drug dealing, which have a negative effect on him and his community. On a personal level, such activities can create hardened criminals who continue to dabble in crime just to achieve dreams, such as to buy a house for their mom, as is the case in the song. And on a community level, this pursuit can lead to more crimes and drug wars. This results in more casualties, an escalation of violence, and perpetuation of the crime and punishment cycle, which necessitates the system, but at the same time creates a ripe environment for all the oppressive aspects of it to breed and to bloom. And that is the awareness and balance that GZA brings to this album. Liquid Swords is one of those rare albums that if GZA chose not to release any music thereafter, he would have still gone down as one of the greats. In the year 1999, GZA released another album titled Beneath the Surface to critical and commercial acclaim. The album was largely produced by Mathematics and Arabian Night. RZA and Inspector Deck from the Wu-Tang Clan also contributed a beat each. The production on this album is more aggressive and contains a much more polished sound than Liquid Swords. It doesn't have the same grit as Liquid Swords though. People loved Beneath the Surface so much that it was certified gold for selling more than 500,000 copies. The album touches on a lot of the same topics as his previous album, with the standout songs for me being the socially conscious track, which is titled Victim, the titular song, which is titled Beneath the Surface, which largely talks about the art of MCing and the disruption that the Wu-Tang Clan caused within the music industry, and Feel Like an Enemy, which is a cypher type of song that doesn't contain any vocals by GZA. Then in 2002, GZA released Legend of the Liquid Sword, which I think is another phenomenal album. It's a titular and spiritual successor to his classic Liquid Swords album. The intro features the martial arts theme in which a young child speaks of how his father went on journeys to fight battles and sharpen his sword. These battles are of course referring to rap battles which the Wu-Tang Clan took part in the early part of their career. Much like Liquid Swords, Legend covers three main topics. The first topic is the music and entertainment industry, which is covered in songs such as Did You Say That and Fame is the Measure. The second topic that the album covers is the dopeness of GZA as an MC. This is covered in songs such as Autobio, Sparring Minds, Rough Cut, Highway Robbery, and Uncut Material. The third major area is crime and social commentary, which is covered in songs such as Luminol and Animal Planet. Animal Planet in particular is a standout track on this album. It's an extended metaphor whereby GZA compares human society to the animal kingdom. He touches on other topics in this album, and in my opinion, this project contains some of GZA's best rhymes to date. The title of the album is obviously bound to push people to compare it to the original. The best way to enjoy it though, in my opinion, is to consume it as a standalone product, and in that regard, I think it's GZA's second best album. The production is crispy clean and polished and contains a heavier drum sound than prior. The mixing, coupled with GZA's slow delivery, make it an easier listen than Liquid Swords, in my opinion. If I was to introduce someone who's not a hip-hop head to GZA, I'd probably give them Legend of the Liquid Sword first to ease them in, even though there sort of isn't any way of easing someone into GZA's lyrics. They're very dense and layered. But with that being said, I still do think Legend of the Liquid Swords would be an easier listen than Liquid Swords. Because honestly speaking, Liquid Swords is not an easy album to digest for a brand new hip-hop fan, as is probably the case with a lot of the Wu-Tang Clan's lyrics and projects in general. In 2005, GZA continued to experiment when he released the concept album Grandmasters in collaboration with DJ Muggs. Muggs did all the production on the album. This particular project uses chess themes, strategy, and analogies to discuss topics that are near and dear to GZA's heart, such as the art of MCing, which is no shock there. It's another incredibly cohesive album, and that word has popped up again, cohesive. It is a recurring theme when you study GZA's work. Then, in 2008, he released his album titled Pro Tools, which is his last solo album as at the time of making this video. In my opinion, it is his weakest project, mostly due to production, which I feel could have been better. I think the songs titled Alphabets, Paper Plates, and Groundbreaking have the most fitting production for an MC of GZA's caliber. There are some other tracks which are dope, but for the most part, this project contains the highest number of skippable songs from a GZA album, which is disappointing to me personally. On the flip side, by the time this album was coming out, GZA had been in the game for over 20 years, he had released multiple solo albums, he had contributed to multiple Wu-Tang Clan group and solo projects, so it's a little bit unfair to expect that he would churn out another Liquid Swords. Pro Tools is the only album in which I might say GZA lacked cohesion, both lyrically and musically. It's not a bad album, it's just that I've heard much better from GZA, so the bar is set really high for him. Around this time, GZA was also more publicly visible, speaking in a TED Talk, appearing in an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and making appearances at science and chess conventions. And in these conventions, he didn't speak much about the Wu-Tang Clan. He discussed his other interests.
So the universe is talking to you every day?
Of course.
Now,
not only the universe, the earth, people, planets, objects, beings. I'm inspired by all. You know, I once said, in a lecture when I was speaking about inspiration, I can be inspired by the spider because his web is 50 times or 20 times stronger than steel. So that's amazing in itself, and I'm inspired by that. I love chess.
Why are you so into chess?
It's the greatest board game ever. I mean, it's a strategic game. It's a mind game.
GZA combined his love for hip-hop and science to come up with the Science Genius Battles. Battles stands for bringing attention to transforming, teaching, and learning science. It's a program that concentrated on teaching science through hip-hop, in particular to Black and Latin American students within his home state of New York.
What is the power behind using hip-hop as an art form to educate the listeners about scientific topics?
After Pro Tools, he announced that he's working on his 7th album titled Dark Matter, which is supposed to cover various science-related topics. In 2016, he released a song titled The Spark, which was the first single from that album. The track spoke of the Big Bang Theory, and it's an incredibly well put together song that can actually be used as a teaching aid for people that subscribe to that Big Bang Theory. Being one of the most skilled MCs, GZA possesses a lot of attributes that when summed together, make him a force to be reckoned with. And once you understand the context within which many of his rhymes are written, it's easier to appreciate his creativity. So, why is GZA one of the best lyricists in hip-hop, and why is he so highly rated? First of all, it's his creativity. The Wu-Tang Clan as a group, and GZA individually, is one of the most creative MCs to have held a mic. GZA in particular covers topics that may otherwise seem nerdy, such as scientific concepts, and he makes them interesting. But his biggest creative strength lies in the fact that he covers ordinary topics such as street life, the art of emceeing, and philosophy in a way that is not ordinary. His choice of vocabulary, his storytelling, and the angles he uses to cover these topics help make him stand out. For instance, an average MC might say, "I'm so dope, I'm the best, my rhymes are really fresh to death," or something corny like that. On the other hand, to express how dope and dangerous his rhymes are, in Duel of the Iron Mic, GZA says, "Yo, picture bloodbaths in elevator shafts like these murderous rhymes tied from genuine craft." In 2 lines, he uses a visual metaphor of a bloodbath in an elevator to portray how deadly and potent his rhymes are. And he expresses that this ability is based on true skill and talent. It's not manufactured or half-baked, unlike some other MCs. Another example is the song Beneath the Surface, where he says, "On a man-made lake, there's a sheet of thin ice where unskilled skaters couldn't figure 8 twice." In 2 lines, he refers to the rap game, which is oversaturated with bling-bling rappers. I mean, the ice, that's the ice he's talking about. And says many rappers can't even rap well. Figure 8, which is a popular ice skating move, is used as a means of expressing that these whack MCs can't write or rap a hot 16 bars. If that ain't dope, I don't know what is. Secondly, GZA has lyrical efficiency. GZA conveys a lot of information within a few lines. I could almost compare him to C.S. Lewis, who wrote several children's books, including The Chronicles of Narnia. Lewis was efficient with words and had the capability to create fantastical worlds without bloating his books with unnecessary text. GZA has that same capability. He's also slow and methodical when it comes to his flow, which means he can't pack as many words into the bars as a faster rapper. So GZA uses his lyrical ability to get his point across with only the required words. Each bar is meticulously crafted to maximize its impact with minimal verbiage. This could also be the reason why he takes his time when writing. By his own admission, he's one of the slower writers in the Wu-Tang Clan, as he often writes, rewrites, and edits bars several times. He summarized this in the song Uncut Material, on which he has a line that says, "Like a child, I have infinite patience when I write." Thirdly, GZA has a great delivery style. GZA's delivery style makes him stand out because it commands attention. That delivery consists of a laid-back flow and clear enunciation of each word. He never sounds like he's in a rush or chasing the beat. He stands out in a group of standout MCs, which is not a small feat to accomplish. He, in many ways, reminds me of KRS-One and Master Ace, whose bars are very clear and don't need subtitles or rewinding to understand and hear every syllable. These MCs are very different in so many ways, but they have the same understanding that the clarity of their words on a record is of utmost importance, and their delivery reflects that. GZA's delivery style enables you to appreciate his lyrics more than you might a faster rapper, whose lyrics zip by and don't give you the time to breathe, listen, and take them in. Fourthly, GZA's projects contain thematic cohesion. Another attribute that GZA possesses is his ability to convey and sustain a singular thought, idea, or theme in many of his songs and albums. The Clan is known for having complex and densely packed rhymes with obscure references to people, places, and things. They kind of have lyrical ADHD, so to speak, whereby in one line they're talking about weapons of war, and the next they're talking about their Clark's shoes. Try giving a Raekwon, Capadonna, RZA, or Ghostface album to a new listener, and they will likely not understand a lot of the lyrics, even though they sound great. I mean, GZA does his fair share of obscure references, but he often couples that with his ability to stick to one or a few clearly defined ideas, such that by the end of his verse or song, you get his overall message if you listen hard enough. For instance, in GZA's song Animal Planet, he uses the animal kingdom to paint a picture of how animal-like human society can be. The whole song from start to end sticks to that singular theme. Or in the song Luminal, he tells a cohesive story about a serial killer at large, much like the ones who became famous in the 70s and 80s, like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and John Wayne Gacy. Or in the song Beneath the Surface, his verse addresses the state of the rap industry, the weak MCs in it, the effect that Wu-Tang has had on it, and his superiority as a writer in the rap game. All of these are interconnected and make the verse cohesive despite having some lines that may throw you off. Another example is his album Grandmasters with DJ Muggs, which uses chess-related themes in all the songs and the titles. That glues the album together. Juxtapose that with, say, Ghostface, who said sometimes he's more interested in exploring the sounds and syllables of words without paying attention to lyrical and thematic cohesiveness. And you find that GZA's raps stand out due to thematic and lyrical clarity. This is not to say that the other members lack cohesion, and it's not to say that Ghostface or anyone else is a lesser rapper than GZA. The rest are just not as thematically cohesive as GZA.
The only difference is if I use the word Nova, I'll be speaking about a star, unlike the average rapper who will probably be talking about a car.
GZA's subject matter sometimes discusses celestial objects, chess, the story of a serial killer, the rap industry, martial arts, the art of emceeing, street stories, and government conspiracies. He has a wider variety of subjects on which he raps, which make his projects highly interesting. You don't know what to initially expect when you listen to a GZA album, because he makes even the most mundane topics compelling due to the angles he uses to address his subject matter. That's a hallmark of a lot of the Wu though. They do cover many areas that other rappers don't, and you might want to hear more about the Clan's lyricism from my video about Master Killer. Another attribute that I highly respect about GZA is that he writes in full sentences, which is an understated attribute that adds to the clarity of each bar. That makes it so much easier to follow his train of thought as opposed to other writing techniques such as word association, which can jump all over the place and make a point harder to follow. For the most part, you can read a lot of GZA's bars on paper and make sense of them from bar to bar. And one of the greatest aspects of GZA's writing is his ability to tell visual and vivid stories. GZA combines his wide vocabulary and knowledge base to tell vivid, varied stories. You never know where a story may go with him, and you never know what angle he's taking until he gets to the final line of the track. This is also partly because he does not fear leaving the audience in suspense. Going back to the song Luminal, he speaks of a serial killer who has been on the loose who finally gets captured at the end of the song. But we, the listeners, never find out who the killer is, why he committed his crimes, and other such details. When you think about real life, that is often the case. We're left in suspense as to why psycho killers do what they do. That aside, the song is carried by his ability to narrate a vivid story that can be easily followed and visualized. All these elements combined make GZA one of the most potent MCs in hip-hop, and it's no wonder he is so highly rated. If you enjoyed this video, you may enjoy my other videos about the Wu-Tang Clan on this channel. Thank you for watching.